Hi, I'm Dr. Ruth Anderson here with Enlightened World Network. Welcome to this episode of Enlightened Women. Grab a cup of coffee or your favorite beverage, settle in, and join us. Enlightened Women is a show about women who are consciously awake and choosing to fully embrace life. These are real women living real lives while walking in spirit. Some of us have been called to serve humanity in a big way that requires us to let go of all that we are to take on the challenge. Our guest today, Sharon Cryan, heard a calling to not only serve others, but to literally feed them as well. Sharon Cryan is the founder and CEO of Food Nerd Inc., a specialty food manufacturing and biotechnology company. Her goal is to provide the most nutrient-dense and environmentally conscious food to every belly on the planet. I am so honored to introduce you to Sharon Cryan.
Thank you so much. I'm so honored to be here.
Tell me the history. How did Food Nerd, A, get titled that, and B, come into reality?
Oh my goodness. I like to joke and say that Food Nerd was started by the universe and not me. It kind of literally came out of nowhere. By trade, I'm an attorney. So I was in the past, international business and economics minor, and I knew I always wanted to go to law school. So I was kind of following that path. But along the way, I just started really diving into health. I think it really had to do with growing up with a mother who had multiple sclerosis and, a father that also had many chronic diseases, and just kind of seeing it a lot everywhere you go. It kind of just bombards us. And I think I wasn't consciously paying attention to it, but over time, I just find myself on my spare time watching nutritional videos, reading books, and just having this natural desire to learn it. And it wasn't really until law school when I started feeling just not as healthy as I knew I could. And I was mentally exhausted, and I was kind of working full time and going through school, and I was just exhausted. So I knew that our bodies have a capacity to just operate at such a flow-like level. And I just knew that there was a level of energy that I wasn't hitting in every way, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. And so after, at night, I would start reading some neuroscience books. I started reading some nutrition books, and I kind of saw all of these little pieces starting to connect together. And I think it really hit me my first year of law school into my second year, where I realized that we all know you are what you eat, but it's not just the physical matter of what you're eating. It's not just the broccoli. It's the intention and the energy that you have when you're eating it that makes such a big difference. And I started noticing the times that I would just grab something and I would be standing in line waiting to order something. I would have this communication with myself. And it was this dialogue that I didn't even realize was happening. And then I knew it wasn't going to be good for me. And then I didn't feel good afterwards. And then it was just perpetual cycle. And so in law school, I just made a decision. I needed to just take care of myself. And being an early adult, I knew I was the only one going to do that. So started looking into plants and figured out they're the highest nutrition. They carry the most energy. And I started meal prepping for myself and juicing, and everybody in law school started noticing. I was carrying around my box of fresh green juices and all the things, and my energy just shot up. People said I was glowing and I felt amazing. I felt so connected to like that source of energy that I know we all have inside. And it was kind of my first time really feeling that. And when people started confirming that they saw it too, I knew that we've all as a society accepted such a low level. And people started asking me if I'd meal prep for them. And so I did. And then after a couple weeks of doing it, I was kind of people were joking that I was like a food drug dealer because they felt so good when they were eating my food. And then I ignored it, but it kept happening. People kept, asking me questions. And I was, at a point where I was more excited to read research papers on nutrition and to talk to people about how they can take care of themselves more than I was about law. And so I just made the decision that it was really hard, especially when your ego is set and, I'm going to be an attorney, I'm going to do this. But my heart and my excitement was wanting to help people. And I felt alive whenever I would speak with somebody, and to see them have that connection in their mind where they're like, okay, this resonates with me. And I think I want to take better care of myself. Like seeing somebody else experience that is like electric to me. Like I just get so excited. And so, yeah, so I decided to quit the firm I was at and I decided to start Food Nerd. And yeah, and so here we are 2 years later, almost 2.5 years now. And it's been absolutely the most amazing journey ever. Food Nerd name came from, everybody just called me a food nerd. It was, like I said, the universe chose the name for me. I didn't even choose it. Everybody was like, oh, you're such a food nerd. And so I was like, okay, that's what it is. So it just happened.
So is all of the food in Food Nerd plant-based?
It is. Yeah. It's 100% plant-based.
And how do you do it? You literally prepare the meals and ship them.
Yeah. So, yeah. So right now it's really interesting. We actually just have a whole new product line that we just launched. We're really excited about. But basically what we do is we make the most nutrient dense, like mega food. So we take food that nature has condensed all of its nutrients into, and then we bring them to a source we sprout and we germinate them. So we bring them to their nutritional peak. So their peak of life, basically the enzymes, the nutrients in there. And then we turn them into the products that everybody in this country is emotionally attached to. And that whole process has just been developing over the last couple of months, and it's been such a blessing. But basically what we do is we take most amazing sprouts and amazing superfoods, and we put them into things like Doritos and Cheez-Its and Oreos and fruit roll-ups and all the things that our ego and our body are very attached to. And so that's what we're doing. And we ship nationwide, door to door, and hopefully we'll be in stores nationwide. So it'll be exciting.
And you also prepare meals.
So yeah, so our meals are, they are these actual, like these products, they are complete nutrient dense meals. So for example, one of our bags of Cheez-Its per se is equivalent anywhere to 6 to 10 salads, nutrient density wise. So they are complete meals. We've just kind of restructured the way we're making them. So my goal is to feed the world. And the thing that I've struggled with the most and have had the most difficult time is healthy eating is a luxury thing and people can't afford it. And it's just really struck my core for a long time, because I grew up in a poor family, single mama, on welfare with 6 kids. And we couldn't even afford to eat healthy, even if my mom had the education of what we should be eating. And it always really upset me that the first year or two in business, the only people who could afford my food were people who were making really decent money. And it really broke my heart, because I don't want to make a luxury product. I don't believe nutrition and health should be a luxury thing. Everybody deserves the most amazing food. So we're kind of switching our whole product line and we're making it as absolutely cheap as possible. And so right now we are the cheapest per meal out there. So we're continuing to work on that, because that is the goal, is just to feed everybody. So.
That's a beautiful gift.
Yeah.
That you are wanting to give to people across the planet. So can you give me a sample menu for a meal that I might order from you?
Yeah, absolutely. So for example, let's say you're going to do our sprouted chocolate goji berry chia pudding. That's a really popular one. So we have sprouted chia seeds, flax seeds, we have goji berries, we have cinnamon, stevia, dates, raw cacao, and that all comes in a pouch, and you sprout it at home overnight and you eat it in the morning, and you're having something that tastes like a dessert, but it's completely raw and it's all sprouted, and it's absolutely amazing for you. And then the second one would be, I would say, our most popular, which is our Reese's cup. It's actually a Reese's cup meal, and in it is sprouted buckwheat, sprouted broccoli seeds, peanuts, dates, stevia, and we've been also experimenting with putting sprouted cabbage in there as well. So,
but yeah. It tastes like a Reese's.
Tastes just like a Reese's cup.
Wow.
Yeah. So, yeah, so exciting. We've been experimenting a lot.
And I'm just looking behind you, and you've got science and energy and love. I mean, it's a vision board of the work that you do.
Yes. So it's so funny. So here at our facility, all the walls are actually whiteboards and blackboards. And if you are not constantly letting that energy flow out and writing ideas down, seeing them, then I believe, you're kind of like hindering yourself. So we write on all the walls. It's kind of my favorite thing to do is make everything a vision board. So yeah, so there's a little bit of everything. There's the science, the energy that we pull in. It all goes into every single recipe. And we have a very in-depth methodology that we do to actually infuse our food with positive, loving energy, which is a huge portion to what we do. So it's not just the food and the nutrient density, it's the energy and the love that's put into it. Wow.
So can we talk about mindfulness for a minute? Because
Absolutely.
you were talking about mindfulness while you're eating, and you are putting mindfulness into your food preparation.
Yes. So mindfulness, I think when it comes to food, it's something that we've lost, but if you kind of look back into history, cultures have been doing it forever. The concept of praying over your food, showing gratitude, that is just installed in us, but we've kind of lost that. And we've kind of traded that moment of mindfulness in connection with food for convenience and fast pace. And there's such an important component that we don't even realize physically that's happening, the change in our entire body on a cellular level when it comes to like how we're actually going to digest the food differently. But it also puts our entire hormonal system into a completely different process as well. So what we do is we infuse our food with 528 hertz, which is the energy and the frequency of love. And that's the same energy that the sun emits onto the world, like the entire botanical world. Every plant absorbs that through the sun. So we heighten it and we reinfuse it back into the food. And then all of our packaging is hand packaged with positive affirmations on every single package. And what that does is when you read it, when you open it, and you see a message that says, give thanks often, or you're amazing, or you're beautiful, or it forces you to just slow down and just be in that moment and think twice before you eat. And even if it's a split second of just gratitude, you're going to change your physiology. You're going to digest the food better and you'll be able to assimilate the nutrients better, but you're also going to increase the energy in the whole day, just emotionally. Like there's so many ripple effects to that one single moment. Yeah, I just feel really blessed that it kind of goes hand in hand with our products because they're going to be holding it. And it's kind of like we have that one moment of influencing them on a health level, but also on an emotional level at the same time. So yeah, so it's a huge mission of mine.
I love how that all comes together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know. And that kind of just, that when I started the company, I was actually handwriting everything, every ingredient, everything on every meal. And it was funny because then I looked into, getting stickers and things like that. And customers said that they noticed a difference in the food from when I was handwriting onto it versus when I wasn't. And it blew my mind because 10 out of 15 customers would say that. And so I was like, what is happening? What am I doing to the food? And then what are they not receiving when I'm not doing this? And that's when it also clicked for me, why the food industry that we have now is so empty and devoid of nutrients and love and energies because we're missing that human touch. We're missing that literal transfer of energy from the person that's making it into the food. And everybody says, your mother makes the best food. And there's a reason because of that. It's literally transferring their energy into what they're making. And then you are then receiving that. And most food that we buy is machine processed and it's so heavily processed that it's so detached from where it was grown in nature. So our goal is to kind of reinfuse all that back in.
Well, and I wonder, Sharon, if that isn't a reason why some people overeat so much because they keep trying to feel that connection from the food and they're not getting it. So they just keep trying other foods to see if they can find it.
100%. I joke and I say, I've thought I've been selling and creating food products, but I'm actually selling self-love. And that is really what I've noticed. First year and a half of the business, I just listened to customers. Like, why is it so hard for them to eat healthy and to take care or just diet? And there's that emotional connection that it's a yo-yo effect. It's like anything else. Some days I love myself and I want to treat myself really, really well. And I make good decisions. And some days I don't. And oftentimes everybody will say to me, well, I really just want this one dish. And I would ask where that dish was, like why that dish? And it usually stemmed from a very intense emotional connection to their mother, to their father, a trip that their parents would go on every year. And that was the food that their brain associated with the emotion. And so that's why we're making the products that we are now, because that's what everybody's connected to. Those moments of their parents giving them a treat, giving them candy, giving them those things. So that's that yearning for connecting that's exactly what we do through food. And it's really deep. It's really deep, really deep.
So I have found that so often when somebody's following their calling, and this truly feels like a calling for you,
Yes.
that they have to grow and stretch in ways that they never could have thought they would have to grow and stretch. What are some of the areas of growth for you that might have been the hardest in this journey?
So it's so funny you say that. So just the last, I'd say 3-4 months ago, I've been starting to have this realization that the things that I think that the universe puts us through, our struggles, are usually the thing that you're supposed to kind of maybe help other people with because you have personal experience. And so what I realized is that food for me, I've always battled with food. And it was because that was my connection and my difficulty growing up in a single family home. My mother, we're on welfare, and we would have meals delivered by the government to us, and we'd have to go to charities and different churches to get free meals. I don't know what it was, but there's something that happened that I forgot about as a child. And then in starting this company, it's like it all came back to me. And it forces me to deal with those wounds that were never really healed. And I think because I had to experience those things, and I can now kind of be a light for other people to see that within themselves. And so my personal struggle is with food. Why I would eat something was not for a self-loving reason. It was the opposite. It was usually because I was getting those indulgences because I wasn't happy with myself in the moment. We would seek pleasure from outside things. And food is just so happened to be that outside number one source that we get pleasure from. Instead of looking inwards and being like, why do I not feel satisfied with myself? Oh, because you're in a job that doesn't fulfill you, or you're making decisions that, are not your highest. And so it was almost like every time I eat something, it forces me to ask the question, is this a self-love tool, or is this something else? And yeah, so it's been a struggle for me, but it's given me so much clarity to be able to help other people. And I can see it now in other people when we think we're talking about food, but we're talking about really deep emotions. And after talking to a customer for 10 minutes, we're crying together, and it's very deep. And they just thought they were asking questions about our products, but it's not. It's a deep struggle. What that kind of stems from is my connection with my mother. Mother is absolutely beautiful, amazing person, but I've just had to watch her absolutely struggle my whole life. And it was really painful for me to watch that. And the way that she would show love was through food. She was always in the kitchen, always cooking for us. And even though we couldn't afford to go to the grocery store and buy what we wanted, and we also, we lived on a lot of donations when it came to food, but she would do the best that she could, and she would make it so loving. And it was the one area in my mother's life where she felt like she could give something to her babies. And so I think that's something that I absorb subconsciously, and I want to help kind of share that message with people. But yeah, it's been a journey. It's been such a journey.
Well, and while you were talking, the phrase that came to my mind was that food equals nurturing. Mm-hmm. And so for you as a child, then there were times that you all had to go to strangers, literally, mm-hmm. to get that sustenance. But you, with your calling with Food Nerd, you are providing nurturing through food. It's really beautiful how that has come about.
Yeah, it's really interesting to see that. I would have never have, like I said, I would have never have chosen to start a food company. And I still don't even believe to this day that I have one, because it doesn't feel that way, but it's exactly what I'm doing. I'm showing people just another way to take care of ourselves and this planet, and just to have gratitude for everything. Because one of my earliest memories that was like really traumatic for me was when it came to school lunches. You had to eat at school lunches because, you know, you couldn't afford to bring your own. And I remember having to eat the government paid lunches and not good quality food. And I remember kind of being really sad and jealous of the other kids that had these really fancy, expensive lunches and all the Lunchables. And I remember, you know, asking my mom why I couldn't have one. And she was like, because they're so expensive and we can't afford it. And society kind of crept in and started creating this barrier of, you know, separation, and food as a tool of separation between us. And that's where we're at now. I mean, if you look at Whole Foods and all the expensive stores, most people can't go there. And so now we have this market of like organic, raw, healthy, plant-based food is now such an expensive thing, where it should be the opposite. You know, this planet provides the most amazing foods for everybody. We shouldn't even have to worry about food. And there's so much life on this planet where we could all eat, and we should all eat for free, and we should all you know, there's so much that we've kind of come so far from that. And it breaks my heart. I think my mission is to really help reverse that and feed the most amazing nature to everybody.
So Sharon, you are in a position now of being the boss. How many people are working with you at this point?
So right now we have a team of about 6 or 7 of us, which is exciting. We're growing, and we're growing really fast. It's hard. We could be growing a lot faster, but what we want to do, and what's really important to me, is bring on people who are in their hearts. And that's really hard to do when not everybody may speak that language. But the people that we have on now are just absolutely all in their heart, and it's absolutely amazing. And I don't have to worry about someone's intention because they have the same exact mission as me. And I think that's one of the biggest challenges I've had to deal with in trying to grow the company, is collaborating, bringing on the best people, because it's so much more than a company. So we're growing, but the universe is bringing people to us. And that's what I realize, is I have to stop trying to find the right people and just open my heart, and the right people flow in. I mean, that happens all the time. Yesterday, the universe brought somebody in yesterday, and it was the most beautiful experience ever. It wasn't even like an interview. It was somebody just pouring their heart, and we just connected on such a deep level. And that's what I feel an interview should be. That was amazing.
So you were in law school preparing to go in a completely different direction.
Mm-hmm.
And here you are managing people in this area. How is it hard for you to not be a perfectionist and expect perfection of the people that work with you?
Yeah, no, it's really hard. Perfectionism, I think, it can be really good and it could be really bad. If it depends on how you handle it. When I feel myself wanting to critique something that maybe one of my teammates is doing, because I would have done it a different way, I feel this internal dialogue where I want to say, oh, you know, you're doing it wrong, or, you know, it's better this way. But often what I've been trying to do is see why they're doing it that way, and put my perfectionism on the back burner. And more often than not, I grow from that moment because they're bringing in something that I wouldn't have brought in. But if I let my ego and my perfectionism come in and steal the moment, I wouldn't have been able to be open to that. So I struggle a lot with perfectionism. I think it's something that the business culture that we live in now, I think kind of idolizes. You know, like, you have to be perfect, and you have to be this, or you have to be that. And then that's when you start selling things that aren't really true. There's a fakeness to it. And if you look at all packaging of food, you look at marketing, it's so disgenuine, and it breaks my heart, because you know why they put that color there, and you know that why they worded it this way, and it's trying to trick people into buying something. And when it comes to marketing, and it's really, really hard to make sure that you don't take in all this advice, because that's when you get pulled away from your heart. And the last thing I want to do is not be in my heart and let the industry dictate how we communicate to our customers. So having a heart-based company in 2019 is it's a challenge, but I think the universe is really ready for it. People want truth. They want authentic people communicating. And that's why I'm so excited, just to be speaking with you about this, because it helps me pull out even more every day of like, okay, why am I doing this? And how can I show this transparency? Because I'm not perfect. The company's not perfect. We're changing every day. We're bettering the products every day. We're doing everything we can, because if we lose focus of why we're doing this and it becomes a money thing, or it becomes a marketing profits, scalability thing, then we're moving away from the universe's mission with this. So I think writing on the walls to stay in our hearts is the most important way to remind ourselves to do that.
Sharon, I think one of the trickiest parts of having a heart-based company is that because you are connecting with your employees on a heart-to-heart or spirit-to-spirit level, then there's an expectation of loyalty and of understanding and acceptance of where each other are. So as a manager, how do you deal with that issue of loyalty? What happens when somebody disappoints you because they didn't have your back or they didn't have the company's back? How do you work with that?
So funny. I'm actually experiencing that with two of my teammates, my closest teammates now. When we see the company as the way that we're like connected and that everybody should be loyal to the company. But that's from an ego standpoint. The company is a separate entity only to the ego. But to the heart, Food Nerd is everybody's heart involved doing the same thing. And I have to keep reminding myself of that, because one of my close teammates now is going through something personal, and it's definitely taken a toll on where she's putting her time and her loyalty. And so my initial feelings are that of like somebody in their ego, that you can't do that, and that's not this, not that. And I think having that conscious moment in communication with myself and saying, okay, how can I be a space for this team member to feel confident and comfortable to tell me anything, and to not think that that the company is hanging over us as this third party entity, but the company is actually in our hearts. And if I can create a space for her to come through and say what's going on with her, the company wins. And I think I have to keep reminding myself that if I don't stay there, the company hurts and it suffers from that. So that's what I did. That conversation, not about the company, but just her. How are you doing? What are you going through? What can I do for you to help you? And I think as companies get larger nowadays, that's lost. When you're a small company, it's easy to do, but the more you grow, I see it all the time with other startup companies that I work with, and it becomes this machine, and that personal connection gets lost when the heart starts to get drained out of it. And so I'm very, very thankful to have some amazing people on the team that are so heart-centered that that's the first thing that they ask. How was your day? How was your morning going? How was your night? How did you sleep? We start in a place of gratitude and openness. I think that's more important, is, making sure everybody's okay every day, and then letting the company flow through next, because that's most important.
No, thank you for that. Sharon, you are a spiritual being having this physical existence here. How do you deal with those highs and lows that life gives you and still keep focused on living your calling?
I think one of the main reasons that I journal on a daily basis is because I have to have that dialogue. I have to see it, because the days that I don't journal and I don't have that moment of, okay, I'm having these ups and downs, and this is, my human body needs, and this is my ego needs, and then taking a moment to write it down and then step back and from that spiritual place and say, I'm actually not this body, I'm not just this issue that's presenting itself. I'm actually this spiritual being that just has love for all of it. I think it's really important to have that daily practice, and meditating and praying is something that's really important to me, but really journaling and writing it down, because it takes that moment of consciousness to say, okay, this issue at hand. It may seem like it's everything and it's everything that's important right now, but it's really not. It's really myself trying to learn myself through this problem, and looking at it from that standpoint is how I deal with it. It's just that moment of not letting yourself get caught in thinking that you are just this limited person in this limited moment. Running a business, we need money, and there's all of these things that could be issues or could be stressors. And they are, if I stay in that mindset that this is a stress, it's something I have to fix, then they become even bigger problems or bigger issues. But when I step back, and I always have to do it in a humorous way. I'll say something, to one of my team members, like, it's so funny that, we're these beautiful spiritual beings, like choosing to have this amazing experience. And then I'm over here stressing about dollars, or I'm stressing about this X, Y, and Z. And I just like laugh about it. And then usually it all kind of just simmers down, and then bam, the universe brings in an answer. An idea will flow through, or somebody will walk through the door with literally a solution to what the issue was. And that happens all the time. And I think that every other entrepreneur, every other person, they have that same exact inspiration and that same thing waiting to come through the door, if they just recognize that they're just like this beautiful spiritual person and not that person that's caught in the moment. If people could understand how many opportunities are literally standing behind them, they would never worry. You would never stress, because all you have to do is just open your heart, open that door, and the universe will bring everything to you. That's so hard to do. It's really hard to let your ego take the back seat and let your heart do it.
One last question. You are on a spiritual journey. What are the most current learnings that you're learning from being on this journey?
I would say what I'm learning most is what the journey of self-love is, like what self-love and acceptance is. So much, I guess, of what our initial thoughts are just in this society and kind of the things that we're surrounded by is that there's always something to fix, or there's always something that could be better, or that has to be done. And that's living from a place of fear. And I was very much raised in a place of fear. And I now have this, this like truth in my heart that always says what self-love is just loving every single thing as it is. I think being in a place of self-love as much as possible is a lesson that I'm learning right now. The universe just wants me to just accept and not try to rush to the next goal, not try to rush to the next thing, and just loving myself right now, where my spirit is at right now, why it chose to be in this moment. Because I'll say all the time, why can't the company be here instead of here? Why can't we do this? And it makes me so sad, because we're all going to miss out on the moment we're in right now. And that moment of like, I love that we're not this big company yet. I love that we're this small company that are going through all these struggles. Like, I have to love that and love everything physically about myself. And I think that's a huge thing. It's really hard in today's our society. Loving the physical body that you're in, like respecting the physical body that you're in, because we're just bombarded with a lot of self-hatred. I very much fall victim to that sometimes, and I'll have all these fears and I want to change this, or I want to do this. And the universe reminds me every day that when I stay in that self-love place and I realize that my soul chose to look this way, my soul chose to be at this place at this time, it gives me such comfort. I hope anybody that is inspired by that can maybe try those practices at home. Just looking at yourself in the mirror, writing it down, telling yourself you're absolutely perfect where you are in the moment, and that you chose to be here. And that's the important thing. You weren't thrown into any situation, you chose it. And you chose it because there was a beautiful lesson that you wanted to learn from it.
Sharon, I just want to thank you for not only sharing with us today, but for choosing to follow that life calling of providing nourishment and love and mindfulness to other people through food.
Thank you.
Thank you for that.
Thank you so much. I'm so honored that that you can see that and feel it. It means so much to me.
Sharon, if people want to learn more about Food Nerd or follow you, how do they do that?
So our website is foodnerdmeals.com. You can just type in Food Nerd or in the Google. We're the first thing that pops up. Or if you want to follow us on any social medias, follow us on Instagram or Snapchat. We're Food Nerd Inc. And we're really excited. We're going to start launching some really cool videos of what we're doing here in the kitchen and our team and talking about real self-love issues. So if everybody wants to check that out, it's going to be really amazing. And I'm super honored. Yeah. Give us a call or check out all the things that we're offering. If you have any questions or anybody has any self-love struggles or issues with food, we would love to be a space to hear that and to help in any way possible. So we are completely here anytime.
That's great. Thank you so much.